And we're back on the latest episode of the Motoring Millennials podcast. This week we have special guests. Oh, wait, it's just Zach and Anthony this week. Anthony, how we doing today?
Doing awesome, man. Ready, ramping up and getting ready for the 2022 season ahead.
I know, right? Yeah, it's almost I guess I'll say it's almost the middle of February. So like we're getting there. March is like when it's really becoming a thing, warm weather and whatnot. So we're getting there. So it's exciting stuff. And before we start talking about more exciting stuff, we always like to recap kind of some of our recent episodes and things we've been doing lately. So recently we've had a slew of phenomenal guests that I know in my lifetime I never thought I would ever have a chance to have like a serious conversation with before. So, starting off with Amanda Busick at the beginning of the year, our first episode of 2022. Awesome person. Definitely be sure to tune into that one, and also to check her podcast out, the Women Shifting Gears podcast that she hosts. We had Tony Schumacher. I mean, I know, Anthony, that's one of your idols growing up, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I feel like we made friends with all these, guys and girls.
It's just amazing when you talk to certain people who you put on like a pedestal as a younger kid, growing up, then you get to talk to them and they're so down to earth and just great people. And, after Tony, we had Antron Brown, which was really cool. We talked to him live from his shop in Indianapolis on a Sunday. So that was pretty cool, seeing him put the work in and meeting his dog right before we joined. So that was nice. And our most recent one from last week, all the way from Finland, Ida Zetterstrom joined us, a 6-second super street bike champion over in Scandinavia and in Europe, and recently getting her top fuel dragster license. And I don't know, it was cool. We're connecting with people from all over the world. So it's really been a lot of cool stuff lately.
Yeah. And the thing is also you anyone listening to the podcast, you can also go back and watch any of those episodes on YouTube. So the full interviews are up there. So you can not only listen with your ears, but you can watch with your eyes now too. So definitely go there and check them out, or you can download it wherever you get your podcasts.
Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't have said it better. And, we're in the works of getting some other guests to come on. So definitely, be sure to stay tuned for more information on that. And speaking of guests, next week, Eric Peterka is going to be joining us again. He joined us back when we initially started this Motoring Millennials adventure. And we're going to be talking about practicing with a purpose and how to kind of stay sharp and stay on your game in the off season, on the racing off season, from practicing tree and whatever else. We're going to get into it. It's going to be really good stuff.
Tell you what, Zach, I've been practicing the tree on my phone with the Jegs app, and I'm cutting some damn good lights, man. You better watch out. I'm coming for you.
Oh, wow. I think that's a challenge calling out here. So we'll see. We'll have to see what happens. But yeah, definitely be sure to tune in. We really enjoy having Eric on, and he brings a lot of great insight to the table. So be sure to check that out. And speaking of checking things out, we are less than 2 weeks away from the 2022 NHRA Camping World drag racing season, which brings us into today's episode. We're going to be making some predictions there, Anthony.
Yeah. I think, this is going to be, I think, out of all of the seasons that I can remember, there's so much hype built around this upcoming season. I think rightfully so. I mean, we're going to go through all the Top Fuel, Funny Car, and Pro Stock classes, and some of the changes that happened during the off season. It's just, there are so many great competitors in the fields this year. It's going to be wild to watch and witness.
Yeah, and I think after talking to Amanda, Tony, Antron, and Ida, and hearing her input too on NHRA this season, it's really like there's like a revival going on right now with all these new teams forming across the major classes, and it's just, I don't know, there's a lot of competition in the air. I feel like there's not as much super or power teams forming, like,
and that's a good thing. Yeah, I mean, that's a good thing because, right, like, competition is always good, right? And it's going to ultimately, it's going to allow these teams to grow bigger, and hopefully the fields and classes to get bigger, and ultimately that's going to attract more people to the sport. And I mean, now with Tony Stewart in the NHRA, and there's just a lot going on, and I think we couldn't be happier with the purpose of this podcast, is trying to reach the younger generation and just expand our our passion for the sport. So right on.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, like I said, this week, our topic is we're gonna be making some predictions. So let's see, what class do you want to start out with, Lucci? You know, we'll do a disclaimer. We're not too into the weeds on pro stock motorcycles. So sorry for the motorcycle fans out there, but we're gonna be talking top fuel, funny car, and pro stock.
I guess let's start with top fuel, right? I mean, there's a lot of changes that happened during the off season. I think there's a lot of great competitors, but I'm gonna start off with my number one pick, who has a really good shot at the championship this year, and he was a previous guest on the Motoring Millennials podcast. And that is the 2020 Rookie of the Year, Justin Ashley. So Justin is known for his great reaction times, deadly on the starting line, and he finished fourth in 2021 in the points. So I think he has a really good shot this year. He now has new crew chief Tommy Delago joined him during the offseason, and he is now also partnered with AB, which is Antron Brown Motorsports, for research and development, and they have a marketing alliance as well. And his new sponsor, Phillips Connect, I think, you know, the car looks sharp, and we know last year it was running sharp too. So I think he has a really good chance to be another top contender for the championship in 2022.
Yeah, I think you know, a big thing with racing, and whether it's bracket racing or, you know, heads up racing, is consistency. And I feel like Justin and his team were super consistent last year. They didn't consistently lose first round a bunch of times. Like, they were consistently in the mix. I feel like, you know, for most weekends, and that's what puts you in the position to potentially win a championship. And I think he's, you know, they're still a young team, obviously, but I think that they're surrounding themselves with the right people, and that's what it takes. I mean, just from hearing us, just from talking to Antron and talking to Tony as of, you know, recently, team is a big thing when it comes to drag racing, and they definitely seem to be setting themselves up with a contending team, even more so.
Oh yeah, 100%. And what you were saying, Zach, I mean, you see him in lots of semifinals and final rounds now. So when you start seeing someone appear a lot more in those later rounds in the race, then you know what's going to eventually come.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And like we talked about before, it's like once you get there one time, you know what it takes to get there again. So your confidence just keeps going higher and higher.
Yeah.
And then the big time results will come. Speaking of big time results, my prediction for Top Fuel is the 8-time NHRA champion, Tony Schumacher. And no, I'm not just kissing up to him because we had him on here a couple of weeks ago. I really do believe, you know, think about it. That guy sat on the bench, on the sidelines for a couple of years, watching everyone else have fun and turn wind lights on. And we heard it right from his mouth. You know, he's chomping at the bit to get back. He's competitive. And I think him having to go out and earn these sponsorships, you know, and kind of put his business hat on instead of just his his helmet on, you know, pun intended. I think he's got a whole nother level of focus and not appreciation, because he's always appreciated it, obviously, but I think he's got a whole next level of focus, which I've never thought he could have, because he was always the Sarge and super focused. But I don't know, you know, and bringing Todd Okuhara now as his crew chief, and like we've touched on that episode, they worked together for many years, and now they're actually like working directly together. And now DSR has one car solely to focus on, so they could put all their efforts and energy into one car instead of, you know, 5 or 6. So I think a combination of that with Tony Schumacher now in place, I think it's going to be pretty tough.
Yeah, and you hear a lot of the competition say like, "Oh, Tony Schumacher's coming back this year, so it's going to be a tough year." And like, obviously, yeah, he is the A game, right? He doesn't, of course, he always brings his A game, but he is the A game. So, I mean, so he's definitely going to succeed. And I think that's a great point, what you said, Zach, that he was working on the sponsorships and the deals, where for all those years he had the Army. Now he's like probably even hungrier, because he's really in all facets of the business. So I think Tony's going to, I mean, yeah, it's crazy. He's going to do really well.
Absolutely. I think we'd be remiss if we didn't mention the slew of competitors that are going to be chasing our top, you know, picks. Steve Torrance, I mean, he's won 4 in a row. So how can we not mention him as a contender? Brittany Force, obviously, and she finished second last year. Antron Brown, Leah Pruitt, Clay Milken. And I mean, I think a dark horse he finished 10th last season, Doug Coletta.
Yeah, Alan Johnson just went over to his team.
Exactly. So I think I'm more excited as a 30-year-old man for Top Fuel this year than I was as a 10-year-old kid. Now, tell me what's wrong with that, but it's exciting. Top Fuel will be fun.
Nothing's wrong with that. No, I mean, that class, I think out of any class, I think even competitors in the other classes are probably going to be watching the Top Fuel rounds, and because it's going to be unbelievable. I mean, you have some of the best racers in the business in really good cars with great crew chiefs and great teams and good sponsors. It's going to be something special.
Yeah, it'll come down to the wire, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So
which typically what comes down to the wire is the funny car class.
Absolutely.
We have some great competitors in funny car this year too. I'm going to do my pick. Finished second in the points in 2021. That is the driver of the Dodge SRT Power Brokers funny car, Matt Hagan. So he's always he's always hungry, I feel like, and I think the other thing is he always seems like he's ready. He's attentive, and he's really just hungry for a round win, for race win, for a championship, and he stays in great shape during the on and off season. So I think Matt, at least in my eyes, Matt is one of those guys who kind of has all his ducks in a row, and ultimately that's going to help you win rounds. So
yeah, surprise, surprise. My pick, just like yours, Anthony, is going to be Matt Hagan as well. For everything that you had mentioned. And also, I think one thing that's important to note is obviously he's a part of Tony Stewart Racing now, but Dickie Venables, who was his crew chief while at Don Schumacher Racing for 2 of his 3 championships, is coming over. So he has great camaraderie with his crew already for this coming season. Yes, under new flag of Tony Stewart Racing, but same crew chief, same crew members for the most part. I mean, and they're also leveraging some of Don Schumacher Racing's equipment that they had acquired from him and whatnot. So I think this transition for Matt is going to be pretty seamless. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, I mean, especially working with Tony Stewart now, and I think I think Matt said something in one of his interviews where I'm sure he still has fun at the track, but I think he was alluding to where, I've had I'm not out here just to have fun winning rounds. I'm out here to really kind of like, not just to have fun, but like I'm out here to, win for my sponsors and conduct business, So I think he's very kind of like what we were saying about Tony, very hungry and aggressive for each round win, and especially with Tony Stewart now. I think I could see those guys seeing eye to eye on a lot of things.
Yeah, they seem to have that alpha mindset, which is what you really need to have if you want to be good, especially in motorsports. Yeah. And again, speaking of other competitors that are going to be close. I mean, how Ron Capps is obviously branching out, doing mostly his own thing this coming year, but he's the defending champion. He fought Matt Hagan off at the last race of the year last season, so he's always there. Obviously, Bob Tasca, Cruz Pedregon, and I mean, how can we forget John Force and Robert Height? So,
yeah, John Force finished 5th in the points in 2021. I mean, I think it's just incredible that. I mean, I think you can never count John out. Like, he'll come out of nowhere, and we've seen how he's recovered in the past from whether that's an accident. Like he said before, he's been around the world on fire, but you can never count him out. He's going to be a serious contender in 2022 as well.
Yeah, I mean, He's always there. And it's funny, speaking of John Force, I saw a meme on social media the other day. It was about Tom Brady, like, oh, he's won 7 or 8 Super Bowls. It's like, that's cute. John Force has won 16 NHRA championships. So
So
absolutely can't count him out for his experiences. And that team is always a force to be reckoned with. Again, pun intended, I guess, what's going on tonight. But let's move into some pro stock. Let's go into we're banging some gears. Who you got for pro stock?
I'm going to go with Greg Anderson. He was number 1 in 2021, and I think he's going to be number 1 again in 2022. So the 5-time champ. And when he gets his next event win, it'll be his 100th career win. So I think Greg is just always one of those guys on the racetrack who, again, just has his stuff together, and he knows how to. He's been I mean, think about that: 100 event wins. Like, what you're doing when you pull up to the starting line. And it's, again, we've talked about, it's a common theme that we talk about on this podcast: seat time and putting in the work. That's something that Greg does, and I think he's definitely going to be right there at the top in the pro stock class in 2022. How about you, Zach? What do you think? Who do you have?
Yeah, I really want to say Eric Enders. I really do, but I'm going to go with a little bit of a dark horse pick. Obviously, Erica will be a contender, no doubt. We're going to stay in the KB racing family, and I'm going to take Kyle Koretsky. I know. Well, his rookie season 2 years ago, he finished 11th. Last year, he jumped up to 4th. I think his highest position he was at one point was 3rd, but he got his first career event win last season. He went to numerous final rounds, and towards the end of last year, that team and Kyle, they were hitting their strides where, consistently going rounds, always in the mix late in the year. They really got their groove, and I really think they're going to carry that over into this coming season. I really do. I know it might be a stretch to say he's going to win the championship, but I don't care, because I think he very well could. And, even last season, I did see him. He's a local guy to us in the Pennsylvania region. He's been running some big money bracket racing. He's staying sharp, which, not to compare drag racing to NASCAR and circle track stuff, for example, but you see guys over in the NASCAR going back to their roots and racing dirt track in between races or in the off season, and they're coming back to the pro ranks and winning. And I think Kyle could do the same thing, because it's like we've talked about, seat time and experience is what wins you championships and puts the win lights on. I think he's taking it to the next level. So, I'm picking Kyle. Kid Chaos.
Yeah, Kid Chaos. Yeah, I mean, yeah, great pick, Zach. And I think all of these classes that we just talked about, I mean, it's going to just be a great 2022 NHRA season. I'm excited to get to the track. I don't know about you, Zach. I mean, but let's get this party started.
I know it's a lot of the local tracks have released their schedules officially now, so we're not far away. We're not far away at all. And
the light's at the end of the tunnel.
I saw somewhere on social media today that I think in 32 days from today, the sun will set at like 7:00 at night. That's
how many days?
Like 32 days, I think.
All right, I'm going to start a countdown on my phone.
Do it. There is light at the end of the tunnel, literally.
Yeah. And I mean, there's nothing like spending a whole day at the racetrack and even, finishing the day with under the lights at the racetrack. So, we just need that warm weather to move in, and we'll be ready to rock and roll. But yeah, so for everyone listening, let us know what your picks are for Top Fuel, Funny Car, Pro Stock, and even the bike classes. Leave a comment on any of our social media. You can find us on Facebook and Instagram at Motoring Millennials. Like I said earlier in the podcast, you can also subscribe to us on YouTube at Motoring Millennials. And we have our previous 4 episodes with some incredible guests. Those episodes and interviews are up there for you to watch. And if you want to get any Motoring Millennial apparel for yourself, go to motoringmillennials.com. And as always, we'll catch you next week. Keep on motoring. Hit it.